My grandmother was born in the late 1800s. Just think about that for a moment. A woman born before electricity, before indoor plumbing, before phones, and before televisions, before washing machines. And somehow, she became the woman who raised me. She was my grandmother, my paternal grandmother. But truthfully, she was also my mother figure. And if my children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren ever watch this someday, I want you to know who she was. Because people like her don't come along anymore. My grandmother lived through a world most of us today can't even imagine. No indoor plumbing, no running water, no furnace, no dryer for your clothes, no grocery stores that were filled with prepared foods or meals. No quick convenience. Everything took work, hard work. The kind of work that shaped your hands, your body, and your thinking. She cooked on a wood stove. Water had to be carried or hand pumped. We had a hand pump in the kitchen over the sink. There was an outhouse. Clothes were washed with a scrub board. Can you imagine that? Washing sheets, work clothes, towels, bedding, children's clothes, all by hand, scrubbing and scrubbing till your knuckles maybe bled, and somehow still getting supper on the table. Later, after electricity came to the farm that I grew up on, there was a wringer washer. I still remember that wringer washer. But even then, the laundry always went outside on the line, even in the winter. And if you grew up on a farm like I did, you know exactly what I mean. You take those clothes off the line, frozen stiff. They're almost standing up on their own. But oh, the smell. Fresh air. Cold winter air. There is honestly nothing that smells quite as beautiful as clothes dried outside. Even now, sometimes I smell laundry, and I'm suddenly a little girl again. My grandmother, she was a stern woman. She seemed strong and powerful, at least to me. Not soft in the way people think of grandmothers today. She wore dresses all the time, a white apron that really didn't stay white for long, but they were made from flour sacks. Her thin white hair braided and rolled into a bun. Always busy. She was always doing something. Always cooking something. Then cleaning, well, as much as she had time for. She was always knitting, crocheting, or darning socks. She loved making beautiful embroidery pillowcases and tablecloths with colored thread. She did a lot of canning, always canning. She did jams. and us children had to pick the berries every day so she could make the jams. She made a lot of pickles, many different kinds. She canned fruit like crab apples. That was one of our favorites. She canned vegetables too, and sometimes she pickled them. There always seemed to be jars lined up on the counter. Food mattered to her, and cooking mattered. Because in her generation, being a good cook mattered. Everything was homemade, everything from scratch, too. If she saw how much prepared food that people buy today, I honestly think she'd shake her head. Oh boy. She probably would have called people what they called them back then. They're nothing but a can opener cook. They don't know how to cook. And trust me, that wasn't meant as a compliment. Because in her world, feeding your family well was something to be proud of. You worked for food. You grew it. You persevered it. You stretched it. You wasted nothing. I still remember riding in the truck with my grandmother and my grandfather. My grandfather, he was French. And he loved speed. I still can hear her voice saying, "No pas trop vite, Hubert, no pas trop vite." That meant, slow down, not so fast. Now let me tell you something funny, or maybe even gross. Back then, the men all carried cloth handkerchiefs. They called them snot rags. And she washed them constantly. I remember thinking, ooh, how can she do that? Even now, I still cringe a little. But that generation, they did what had to be done. No complaints, no drama. Just get on with it. And honestly, that may be one of the biggest lessons she unknowingly taught me. She had a life before me, a hard life. My biological grandfather was much older than her. I think maybe around 17 years older. I could be wrong, but much older. She had actually babysat for him and his wife at the time when she was a young teen. Sounds strange now, but life was different then. When my grandfather's wife passed away, it wasn't unusual for a man to marry someone younger who could help care for the children and the household. Men worked. Women ran homes. That was survival. Together, they had 9 children. Well, one tragically drowned at about 21 years old. Can you imagine losing a child after all those years? My grandmother was also a midwife in her time. And back then, when young unmarried girls became pregnant, many babies were quietly given away. Sometimes the midwife raised them themselves. They took them home and claimed them as theirs. And my grandmother did that. She took in a baby boy. Because that's what people quietly did back then. Not because life was easy, because life was hard. Many people stepped in. But here's the part of her story that changed mine. When my mother left, my grandmother heard my little brother might be adopted out. And she said, no, 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 no. Those children cannot be separated. So my grandfather said, if you want them, Mary, come on, let's go. Get in the truck. So she and my step-grandfather at the time, they were just newly married, maybe a couple of years, took us in. 3 little children, ages 4, 3, and 2. My brother still not even potty trained. She was in her early 60s. Think about that. Most people today at 60 say they're tired, ready to slow down. And here she was starting over, raising 3 small children because she believed families stayed together. I don't think I understood then what a sacrifice that was for her. At 60, she became my mother figure. And because of that, my life became what it is in many ways. Now, I want to be honest. She was not a warm and affectionate woman, not in the way people parent now. You didn't question her. Children were to be seen and not heard. You respected elders, or all adults. You respected them. You listened, you obeyed, and yes, there were spankings. I still remember hearing my grandmother say when she was angry, "Go get me a hickory stick now." And of course, I thought I was clever. I grabbed the thinnest one I could find in the bush, thinking maybe it wouldn't hurt as much. Oh, was I wrong. That thin one hurt worse. Funny now, not funny then. There were things about her I didn't understand. Things I still wrestle with sometimes. Love looked different then. Survival looked different then. People hardened themselves because life hardened them. And emotions? They often got buried under responsibility. There was no time for emotions. I remember baths in a big metal tub beside the wood stove in the kitchen. Water was heated on the stove. It was mixed with hot and cold water. They were always nighttime baths because they were done in the dark, so the boys and the men wouldn't see us little girls. Can you imagine? That was normal life. Not luxury, not comfort, just life. And yet, when I look back now at 68, I realized something. That woman taught me more than I understood at the time. She taught me resilience. You kept going. You solved problems on your own. You worked with what you have. You don't fall apart over every inconvenience. You became resourceful. She taught me self-sufficiency, how to survive, how to think, how to adapt, how to work hard, how to get through difficult times, And maybe, most importantly, she taught me that life doesn't owe you easy. You figure things out. You problem solve. You keep moving. You stand back up when you fall. Looking back, I think part of why I walk through hard things now, why I can dream big things like walking the Camino at 68, is because somewhere inside me, there's still that little bit of her, that stubborn strength, that problem solving, that refusal to quit. Did she say, "I love you" often? No, not really. I don't ever remember being told that. Did she hug a lot? No. I actually don't remember getting hugs at all growing up. But love in her generation often looked different. Love looked like food on the table, warm clothes, a roof, taking in 3 frightened little children when she could have said no. Now, taking young children in at that age and raising them, there's no possible way that you don't get bonded to them. So of course, she loved us. Love looked like sacrifice, responsibility, a duty that was required, showing up when required, even when tired. Maybe she never said it much, but she lived it. She died in 1975. I was only 17 years of age. I was too young to fully understand. Too young to thank her properly. Too young to realize how much of me she had built. But now, I see her differently. And to my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, someday, I want you to know this. You may never have met her, but pieces of her are still here in me. In how I solve problems, how I survive hard things, in how I keep going, how I stand back up. And maybe, if you look closely, a little piece of her lives in you too. Because this strong, stern woman, born in the late 1800s, who washed clothes by hand on a scrub board, cooked on a wood stove, and quietly saved 3 little children from being separated, helped shape this family. And for that, I will always love her, even if she never said the words, because sometimes love is not spoken. Sometimes it is lived. And if this story brought back memories of your own grandmother or someone who helped raise you, I'd truly love to hear about them in the comments. What did they teach you? Because these stories matter. They are pieces of who we are. They are pieces of our history. And if you enjoy hearing stories from a time that feels so long ago, stories worth remembering, stay with me. I have many more to tell. This is Carol Ann, and I'm still standing.